us a Gucci reward.
I mean, these corporations that sent all the manufacturing over to China, what is it when you let the genie out of the bottle?
Put the genie back in the bottle.
I don't think you can put the genie back in the bottle.
Put the genie back in the bottle.
Howdy. Wyoruss here.
And Chris.
There is a TikTok community of Chinese influencers that are working at these factories for like Gucci and like big name brands that are like high-end brands, and they're saying, hey, that bag that says made in Italy, we actually made it here in China. Or like 80% of the time, we make it here in China, and then we send it back to Italy and they slap a made in Italy tag on it. But it's not really Italian. We did all of the craftsmanship here. Anyways, let's watch this fellow.
Okay. What does it say? Because I don't have my glasses on.
Send bag SX? I don't know.
Some say as long as there's a tag saying made in China, the bag can never be luxury. However, in fact, more than 80% of the luxury bags in the world are made in China. But those luxury brands just won't acknowledge that. They take almost finished bags from China factories back to their own factories and just do the repackaging and logo installing, something like that. That way, the bags will appear at their boutiques as made in Italy or made in France. You know, those sophisticated European countries, which make you feel mysterious, royal, and thus luxury.
Why would you buy the exact same bag because it has a Louis Vuitton or a Gucci label on it, instead of just buying that exact same bag that has made in China? Like, I can see through that bullshit. I don't care where it's made. I just want something that feels good, like as far as a shirt or looks good. And I actually don't even care that much. I should care more. I really should.
You certainly don't iron them.
I certainly don't iron them, and I wear the same shirt like every day. People who've watched me in the past know that. And I need to up my fashion a little bit, but not because of this. Mainly because I just want to look and feel good. But yeah, it's all illusions. You buy like a brand. The brands are overhyped. I knew that though.
Yeah.
Now, close your eyes. Let's just do a little, very easy experiment in your head, okay? Imagine that you have an Hermes bag, and suddenly the label on it changed from made in France into made in China, while everything else, like leathers, zippers, and hardware, remain the same. Do you suddenly feel that your bag is not as luxury as before? If you do, that means you have been misled and poisoned by the market campaign of those luxury brands for too long. Welcome to the real world. Now you see, those bags are made in China by our intelligent and diligent Chinese artisans. Let's not be poisoned and misled by the market campaign any longer, and be a real person. Buy a bag from us, from our factory in China. See the real world for yourself.
You know, you go into like a dollar store, what have you, and everything is plastic crap from China type of thing. Well, there's that level of it, but here's the other level. It's like the great stuff is also from China, because they actually have people working in factories there.
I think that's the biggest thing that we have to remember. China doesn't just make cheap stuff. I think they cater to the business of the dollar store to make cheap stuff for that market. But there's the flip side. They're catering to the high-end market, or what we perceive as high-end quality stuff that doesn't fall apart, because they're making that too.
So basically, let's just put it this way.
They make everything.
They make the cheap of cheap, and they make the expensive, because they make everything.
Yeah.
All production just about around the world was sent to China.
And they often
huge percentage
do it without the markup of the luxury brand.
Their laborers there aren't making
as
much of the money, but the brands, you know, they're the ones that are making the money.
This phone I have, this is a Chinese phone. This is just iPhone.
Yeah.
Like, it's just all China. Like, the corporations fucked us over, dude.
What phone is made in the United States? What phone is totally made in the United States? That one.
I mean, these corporations that sent all the manufacturing over to China, they really screwed America over.
Oh, when with corporate greed, you know, decades ago, when everything was disassembled as far as manufacturing equipment in the United States, when we used to make things here, all of the equipment was disassembled, The equipment was put on boats and sent to China, and people then were working for slave labor there, at least initially, making the same things that they continued to sell to us for the same price. They were just making more profit. And in our former business with the sheets, there were really nice sheets, that the first ones that we bought that were made in New York, had on the label, made in New York. We wanted to get more of those. They had this really nice lace on them. We couldn't find them. We found knockoffs that were poor quality. We ended up having an expert look into it for us, and they said, you'll never get those made like that again in the United States. He said, I found out the factory that they were made in New York, the equipment was taken and sent to China, and now that factory, showed us a photo of the factory, a beautiful Victorian building, leveled. Not even the building was standing there anymore. It was demolished. How many people have you met and they say, we're making this product? Very few.
No, not in America.
Not in America.
You'd have to live in China, and then it would be everybody.
The only examples that I know of, and this is nothing from around here in St. Pete, but back in Bozeman, Montana, you had West Paw that made dog-related items, the blankets and toys and things. West Paw. Americans are actually making those things for West Paw. And then also one of the backpack companies. Which one was it? I'm going blank right now. Whatever my backpack is.
Those
there's very few.
The Make America Great Again hats?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently a good portion of them are made in China. Some of them are made in the U.S., but apparently there's so many of them that some of them are made in China too.
Not the production capacity here. You keep hearing about the 1%. I don't know what percentage of people are in the economic status that they buy Gucci bags, Louis Vuitton bags, and whatever other names there are out there that I don't know, because I don't buy any bags. Most of society, the other 99% or whatever it is, that they can't buy that crap anyway, the expensive crap. So most of us in the real world, we don't see these things, except maybe hanging on somebody else's arm, if I even noticed it. So I don't worry about it. They've not ripped me off one time because I've never bought a Gucci bag or a Louis Vuitton bag. I bought some of the plastic crap at Walmart, Ace Hardware, and everywhere else, because it doesn't matter where you go to anymore.
That's not true.
You
have been ripped off. Shoes.
Oh, that's right.
Like New Balance. Apparently New Balance does it too. And Nike.
Who are the suppliers behind Salomon, Timberland, New Balance, Adidas, Nike, la 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 la? First, Baocheng Factory, one of the world's largest OEM sports shoe manufacturer. It is like a Foxconn in the shoemaking industry. During its heyday, it has over 100,000 employees in just one of its factories in Dongguan. What even surprised me is that it owns an independent brand called YY Sport. It's like a distributor for sports shoes like Nike and Adidas, same as like Foot Locker in America and JD Sports in England. Second, Huajian Group. It is one of the largest OEM manufacturer for leather shoes in China. On the other hand, Huajian mainly offers the OEM service towards those big brands like Gucci, Tory Burch, Coach, Calvin Klein, etc. Sounds crazy, right? Alright guys, this is Luna. Follow me for more China sourcing tips.
They didn't tell me they made it in the U.S.
Yeah.
I didn't buy New Balance because I thought it was made in the U.S. I bought it because it made my feet feel good.
Yeah, that's
they were
true.
quality.
But you probably could have went and bought it cheaper, the same ones, without the branding.
I wouldn't know what to look for.
I guess you would have to go and try on a pair and then go online and go to the Chinese market, which sounds a little sketch, but...
Well, that's the thing. It's like I went in and we spent, 2 hours when I bought my first New Balance shoes, which were expensive. They were 200-something bucks. But I walked in to REI hobbling in, because before that, we had gone to Ross Dress for Less, and they're like, oh, these tennis shoes are cheap. They seemed totally fine. They're like supposedly Nike or whatever. I got 4 pair of shoes for less than I'd been paying for 1 pair of tennis shoes. And then I ended up having plantar fasciitis develop on both feet.
I think they were rejects. I don't think they were
They must have been bad.
They must have been rejects.
They were cheap and they were bad shoes, and they destroyed my feet, the tendons in the bottom of my feet. So I hobble in after that to REI, and because people had said, try New Balance, I tried 4 different styles of softness on the bottoms, and we walk out, I finally decide which one, and I go for the soft. We walked over 3 miles after having hobbled in. So The New Balance were good, and I wouldn't know what is also made by the same people that make New Balance with a different name.
I think
I don't know
that's-
what to look for.
I think that's the
only
other
thing.
aspect of a lot of these creators. They're telling you all the websites.
Oh, so they're going to tell us.
No, I'm not going to watch them. We're going to stop it there. But I'm saying you can go right now, and a lot of the Asian influencers are being like, hey, you can just go to this site. And even if you have to pay tariffs, you can still get it cheaper.
Well, if it's all going to be made in China anyway, and I knew what was the equivalent of a New Balance, I would be fine with doing that.
These American and European corporations did it to themselves.
I have no pity. I have no pity on them.
They changed the game and they helped make China what it is today. And then they try to like ban TikTok, trying to like being scared of the influence. It's like, look what you did. Like everything around me, for the most part, and there's not everything, but a good portion of what is made around me, even things that I like a lot, are made in China.
What else is not made in China? Most things are made in China or Mexico.
Or Vietnam.
Vietnam pots, a lot of pots. Like
Yeah.
now, when I was in Vietnam and Cambodia, what I got to witness there is big areas being leveled, getting ready to build factories in both Vietnam and in Cambodia, because the Chinese had risen so, they'd been making so much that enough people had risen up in their income that it was now costing these corporations too much for them, because they wanted more profit, for things to be made in China any longer. They were then switching it to Vietnam and Cambodia because they could pay less of a wage in Cambodia and Vietnam at that
sometimes
point.
borderline slave labor. Sometimes there has been. Or, using child labor. Nike's had some issues with that. And it's also environmental things. They don't have to jump through the same hoops when it comes to the environment. They can dump stuff or get away with certain procedures that could be dangerous for the U.S.
Yeah.
So there's corruption, not paying, like having slave labor. Most of us would be like, hey, that's fucked up. Like, yes, even if it gives us a cheaper product, which it usually doesn't, because there's too much greed from the corporations anyways and the brands, they still charge you higher end and they inflate it so much and they still charge you a lot. They just don't pay the people that much, and then they still charge you a crazy amount, and they pollute more because it's in another country and there's less regulations. That's not all of them. I'm sure there's some good ones, but let's be real. That's kind of like what it's become. There are some things that we should be making, though, here. When it comes to, like, medicine, if there was, like, a battle with another country or some sort of bad relationship, we should have certain essentials that are made here.
Inability to get products shipped across the world during, like, COVID.
Yeah.
Like, the whole supply chains were shut down. Disastrous for us here because we make none of our medicines hardly. We make hardly anything. So basically, you couldn't get stuff.
I guess that's why a lot of politicians have believed in tariffs for certain reasons. And then, of course, politicians also use them as like a poker move to try to like do a trade war.
Yeah.
Will any of it work? I don't know. This is a response that China's kind of doing.
Yeah.
That a lot of Chinese creators are doing. And I think it's just messy. I think the reality is a lot of the roots of what's going on with like these tariffs, it goes back to the corporations and their decisions.
Yeah.
And making all the stuff over in China, even essential goods like medicine.
I blame most of our ills on corporations. That's just where I put it, right at their feet, because they wanted more and more and more profit for the CEOs and for the investors. They don't care if a product is made well or not, just so that people buy them. In fact, there's the whole thing of planned obsolescence built into everything now. Years past, decades past, things were made in America. You had corporations that made quality products that you could trust and that were supposed to last. Like my grandmother had a refrigerator, I can't tell you what brand it is, maybe GE, had to have been made in the 30s because that's when her house was built. The thing still works.
Yeah.
It still works. But now you have refrigerators that have a planned obsolescence of a few years. That's the way corporations have gone. And so not only do you have to buy it numerous times, it's still not made here. It's made elsewhere and then shipped from overseas here. It's the constant thing of we've got to have the consumer. We've got to have the consumer, rather than ever considering making something of quality that is going to last. They don't want to do that.
The U.S. is not that good at manufacturing because we just don't do enough of it anymore. We sent it all overseas.
Forgot how.
We don't have the infrastructure in a lot of it. Like we don't have the factories anymore.
No, they don't exist.
We screwed over a lot of people with their jobs. Can we get that back? I don't even know.
I don't know either. If we can reclaim some of that productivity
Then it
for
goes
here.
the concept of like tariffs. Actually, I'm not an expert at tariffs, and I listen to people who have different opinions on tariffs that are actually really good at knowing it, but they have different opinions, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know. I don't know what the future is.
The time to fix this would have been never to create the problem for us to begin with.
I don't know if you can like what is it when you let the genie out of the bottle?
Put the genie back in the bottle.
I don't think you can put the genie back in the
Put
bottle.
the genie back in the bottle.
I think China, they have the technology, they have the factories built, they're exporting to the US, but also to other countries. Like their car market is booming. A lot of developing nations are going to start partnering with China. It's just scary. And then it goes into like the BRICS currency and then the Chinese currency, and is it going to do better than the dollar? I think China is a country that I don't want to underestimate. Unfortunately, I think the corporations made it like this. And the politicians. It's the politicians because the regulations, the politicians and the corporations, which are intertwined in America now, they made China what it is today, and they let the genie out of the bottle, or even created the genie. And can you put that back in the bottle? I don't think so.
Items that I would probably trust less in China is food grown in China, because they have less environmental regulations. That's part of what pushed so much production there. We have environmental regulations, which we should. If we're going to have environmental regulations on corporations here, if we're requiring that, we should also have the ability to require that if something's made in another country, they have the same environmental regulations in order to prevent contamination there. Their land's being contaminated, and then those people are being contaminated, and then anything we buy back from them food-wise has likely been contaminated. And if you go into Asian markets and look at food items, there's a label on everything about exposing you to lead, some of them cadmium and different things. I'm assuming that's because of the pollution that we've helped generate on their soil. That's my guess.
How do we fix these problems?
I don't know how to fix these problems as long as we are so willing to have corporate greed. As long as corporate entities have personhood here in the US, I don't know how you fix this problem. We will never fix our problems until that is reversed and corporations no longer are allowed personhood.
Citizens United 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Did you already know that these luxury products were made in China? You probably did. Did you think that all stuff made out of China was shitty? Or did you think some of it was good? Did you think they had this range? Because it turns out they do have a range because they make so much. Wyoruss?
And Chris,
Love
you
you
a long time.
We have a Cash App too, and make sure to like this video.
Give us a Gucci reward.
No, we ain't spending it on Gucci, dude. If you give us
That's
Cash
not what
App,
I mean. Is it, if you like things at those prices, give us a Gucci donation, a Gucci donation.
and we'll invest it back into the channel and travel
Yeah.
and make videos.